Hakadosh Boker Tov Masechet Chagigah Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 13a1. The Gemara says, if you remember, we just spoke about yesterday about that there's going to be a difference between Bate Gavai and Bate Barai. Bate Gavai means the inner rooms, and Bate Barai means the outer rooms. That there's going to be like choshech around it. That's going to be the difference between the inner and outer. Ve'amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, and says Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Yeah, Od rakia echad yesh lemala menashe hachayot. There's also another rakia which is above the chayot hakodesh. Tichtiv says in a pasuk udmut al rashe hachaya rakia ke'ena kerach hanora. So therefore, it comes out that there's going to be another one which is above that. So says the Gemara, ad kan yesh lecha ledaber. So until here, you have the permission to speak. Mikam va'elach, but then onwards, en lecha reshut ledaber. You're not allowed to speak. Now, actually, this is very interesting, because it comes out that Rav Acha bar Yaakov is actually coming. He's adding on to Resh Lakish. If you remember, Resh Lakish said yesterday that there's only 7 rakiyas, and we said that the most upper rakiya, right, which that was the how do you call it, Baravot? No, Aravot was the upper one.
Yes.
Yeah, Aravot was the highest one. That was the last level that you had the Seraphim, the Ofanim, you had everything over there. Kisei HaKavod. Now, according to Rav Acha bar Yaakov, he's coming to say that there's one above that one. So there's actually comes out that there's 8, according to Rav Acha bar Yaakov, because since it says Udmut al Rashi Chaya Rakia Ke'ena Kerach HaNora, so therefore he's saying that there's a Dmut on top of the Rashi Chaya, which is a Rakia, which looks like the snowish type of Rakia. So therefore, it says over here, which is putting a lot of emma, he says here. It's putting fear in the different people. So because of that, he comes and he says that there's actually another one on top. Okay, so the Gemara is now going to say, Adkan, until here, you're allowed to talk. That means you're allowed to talk about this rakia, which is me'al rashi achayot. Mikam ve'elach, but after that, you're not allowed to talk about what's above that or what malmala. No.
Supposedly, whether it's the 7th.
It's written in Sefer Ben Sira, Bamufla mimecha al tidrosh. What does that mean, Bamufla mimecha? Something which is separated from you, you should not do drashon, you should not expound upon. Uvameschusa mimcha, and something which is covered from you, al tachkor, don't do chakirot, don't start investigating. Bameh she'usheta itbonen, en lecha esek v'nistarot. Well, without you permitted to think all that you want, but en lecha esek v'nistarot. But there's no esek in things which are hidden, right? So Tanya, we learned in a Braita, okay, also to do the Sheva Rekiim. And it says that Samar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, it says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ma teshuva shivata bat kol leotor rasha, b'shah she'amar e'eleh al bamote'av adameh le'elyon. What was the answer that was given from the bat kol, the heavenly voice, to Nebuchadnezzar Rasha, during the time where he says there in Yeshaya, that he's going to go up on Menomei Anan, on the Ananim, or whatever it is, and that he's going to be compared to like a god. What did it answer him? So it says, Yatzabat Kol V'amalo, Rasha ben Rasha, right? Ben beno shel Nimrod Rasha. Yeah, he says, Rasha, Nebuchadnezzar, the son of another Rasha, that he was the great, obviously, of a grandson of Nimrod Rasha, Shimrid Kol HaOlam Kulo Alav B'malchuto. Yeah, that he comes and he made everybody rebel against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kama shenotav shel Adam. How long does a person live? 70 shana. Right, 70 years. Okay, he gets gevurot. How much? 80 years. 80 shana. From the aretz to the rakia is ma'ala 500 shana. It's actually 500 years. Yeah. Ve'ovyo shel rakia ma'ala 500 shana. The ovi of the rakia is also 500 years. Yeah. So he says v'chen ben kol rakia v'rakia, and also between every single firmament, right, also is 500 years. Lemala mehen, above them, you have the Chayot HaKodesh, okay, and the Ovi of the Raglei HaChayot is Keneged Kulam, which means like this, one more time, if you're just going to take math and you're going to start doing it very quickly, we just said from the Aretz to the Rakia is 500 years. The Ovi of one Rakia is 500 years. Between every single Rakia is 500 years. Right? Lemala mehen, above that, right, is the Chayot HaKodesh, that only the kapot raglaim, only the heels of the feet of the raglaim of the Chayot is keneged kulam, keneged everything that we just did until now. So imagine what we're talking about. Think about it. It's 500 times 500 is that rakia times, right? That means, one second, you're doing 7 times 500, right? Because basically every single rakia is 500. That's the thickness of the rakia itself. Plus the space between each one. So you have 500 to get to the one, 500 to get to the second, 500 to the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So that's another one. And then you have above there, right? You have now it comes out that the karsulei chayot is keneged kulan. Okay, this is the. How do you translate the karsulaim?
Karsul is the heel.
The heel. Okay, so the heel. Okay, because you had the actual the palms of the legs. That's ovi kapot raglei chayot was keneged kulan. Karsulei chayot keneged kulan. Shokei chayot keneged kulan. That's the thigh. Rechuvei chayot, right? Keneged kulan. What is this? This is the yerech. That's the thigh. So what was the one before then? The shok is etzem animkar ima reged. Right? This is actually a proof to the Gemara that when it says shok b'yishayrva, it doesn't mean the top part; it means the bottom part.
From the knee.
Right, from the knee to the. Right? No, that's what I'm saying. This is a proof from the Gemara that we're just saying right here. This is a proof that when it says shok b'yishayrva, but some people say, why do women have to wear tights, or why do, right? It says in the Gemara Mefurashet, shok b'yishayrva, shok b'yishayrva. So some people say shok is only the thigh area. Here you're saying no, that the rechuveh is the thigh area. The shok is from the knee downwards, right? That's what he's saying over here. This is rechuveh. That's what's written over here. Rechuveh chayot keneged kulan, yarchei chayot keneged kulan, right? This is yirechaim, okay? This goes in the loins. Gufei chayot keneged kulan, savarei chayot keneged kulan, rashei chayot keneged kulan, karnei chayot keneged kulan. Lemala man, and above all of this, so if you took that 1,825,000, kilometers, right? Mordechai, now do the math, please, and do that. Each one is keneged, meaning you have one of those keneged ragleh times again itself, because karsulei is also times that, times the shok, times the rechuveh, times the yarcheh, times the gufeh, times the tzavareh, times the rasheh, times the karneh. Because each one keeps on. Keneged kulan
of the whole thing.
Well, that's what I understood. It's keneged kulan. What is kulan? It's kulan of the 1,825,000. So it's 1,825,000 times, right? You have to do how many times? You have one. It was raglei achayot, karsulei, shokeh, rechuveh, yarcheh, gufeh, tzavareh, rasheh, karneh. Times 9. Lemala men, and above that is a kisei kavod. Ragle kisei hakavod keneged kulan, kisei hakavod keneged kulan, melech chai v'ram v'nisa shochen alehem. ואתה אמרת, and you're going to tell me, אלה על במותי אב אדמי לאביון, right? אך אל שאול תודד אל כתב בור. He says, you're going to tell me you're going to go up to the Shamayim? You're going to go to Akash Baruch Hu? What? Yeah, this is what the Bat Kol Amram. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Okay, fine. So this is, okay, there's a whole, here there's a beautiful Mechtam Eliyahu. He's explaining this is Derech Musar, right, on the Shiva Rekim. The Rekim is, like the Dargot. Here he wants to say that each one is like a Darga of an Aliyah Ruchanit. So he says 500 years is an Amal Bilti Posek that a person would have to do with Kochot Atzmo to get to the first Madriga. But this is this is only on condition that he doesn't go backwards. And from one Madriga to another Madriga, it would also take him 500 years if he would do it with his own bat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and he helps a human being. So therefore, each one of these things is like, that with our strength, if we would have to go from one level to another level in spirituality, we would have to work 500 years. But since HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us, he helps us get to the 500 years much earlier. That's the way the Mechtam Eliyahu, Rav Eliyahu Dessler, he comes and he explains this entire concept, okay? Then it says in the 2 dots, so he said that you're not going to be Doresh in the Maaseh Merkava with one person, Biyachid. So it says over here like this, unless obviously he was a Chacham, Vimidato. Tani Rebechia came and he taught, Aval Mosrin lo Rashe Prakim. What do you do? With Yachid, you have to give him the Rashe Prakim, and then he's going to understand the rest by himself. I mean, you give him the keys, right? You write the legend, as they say. And then he has to decipher the rest. As long as he knows the Rashe Prakim, he continues learning after that. Amar Bizera says Bizera, Em Mosrin Rashe Prakim ela le'av betin. Right, which means that you're only going to give it to an Av Betin and to somebody, right, that his heart is, meaning he's not going to be Mekel Rosh. right? By the way, you should know, whenever we're talking about these things, it's very, very important. We're talking about Dvarim Shbi Kedusha and everything. You don't know how much Rav Ovadia, for example, he's got an entire kaletet, an entire thing. Rav Yaakov Hillel has an entire sefer, right? There's a lot of Mekubalim nowadays. They learn these things and right away they use it for magic, right? So they come, they'll use it for this thing, for the other thing, right? You have to see how Rav Ovadia, he destroys them. When I say destroy them, Mamash, he makes them mincemeat, right? Rav Yaakov Hillel wrote an entire book again. Why? Because many times, I can learn. I've got names. I'll start doing, this black magic or all these type of things. And kilu, right? But you're not allowed to. Understand? These are so here he's saying you're only allowed to give it to an av bedin. Somebody not just right? Why? Because if not, I could use these things for my own personal gains, and then what's the problem? And it's not that it doesn't work. It works. The names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you understand? But a person has to pay attention. There are those that say, right? Doeg bekidbo. Right? Not, that means two things. Which one? Here. Badai. Right? The Ika de Amri is adding on because beforehand we understood it was two different people. There was the Av Betin, or anybody that has a lot of like Yirat Shamayim. Now the Ika de Amri is saying, no, it's an Av Betin and he has Yirat Shamayim, which means that it has both of them together, two ma'alot together. Amar Rabbi Yami says, Rabbi Yami Mosrin Sitre Torah l'mish yesh bo chamisha dvarim. You're only going to give Sitre Torah to somebody that has these five things. Sar chamishim unsofanim v'yoetz v'chacham chadashim unvonan lachash. So he has to be Sar chamishim, nesofanim, yoetz, chacham chadashim, unvon lachash. Okay? Yeah, we're talking about the depths of the Kabbalah. The depths of the Kabbalah, yes, 100%. Okay, so it says over here like this. It says Rabbi Yami, we never give the secrets of the Torah to a goy. Shneimar says in a pasuk, right, that he did not do all these things to the goyim, that they cannot know all these balidom. Balidom means that they did not know these mishpatim, these things, right? So that's why it's very, very important. Says the Gemara, Amale Rabbi Yochanan le Rabbi Elazar. Says Rabbi Yochanan to Rabbi Elazar, Ta agmeracha b'maaseh merkava. Come, I'm going to teach you maaseh merkava. So now starts right with the maaseh merkava. Amale, he says, La kashaya, I'm still not old, right? So imagine, Rabbi Elazar says, I'm not old. Kikash, right? When he became elder, Nachnav Shed Rabbi Yochanan. Then Rabbi Yochanan passed away already. So Amale Rabbi Yassi, says Rabbi Yassi to Rabbi Elazar, Ta agmeracha, I'm going to teach you maaseh merkava. Amale Izakai. If I was zoche to learn Maaseh Merkava, I would have already learned it from Yochanan, your teacher. The fact that I wasn't zoche, so therefore obviously there's something there. Rav Yosef Avagami Maaseh Merkava, right? Rav Yosef he knew Maaseh Merkava. Sabede Pumpedita Avutanu Maaseh Bereshit, and right they used to teach in Maaseh Bereshit. Okay, here it says Maaseh Merkava, Maaseh Bereshit are braitot, and therefore it's like Tanu, right? So it's two different things. You see, Maaseh Bereshit. They went and they said, teach us Maaseh Merkava. Okay, fine, I'll teach you Maaseh Merkava. You teach me Maaseh Bereshit. But after they taught them, they told them, no, Maaseh Merkava. So now teach us Maaseh Merkava. Right? We learned on these things, which means that you're not allowed to teach it over. Right? Which means that he went and he actually, it sounds here that he didn't want to teach them. Which is actually a trick. No, he got them to teach them on Maaseh and then afterwards, it's not supposed to be taught. Ya Rabbi Avu Amar Mehacha. From here, actually, how do we know you're not supposed to be Megale Sitre Torah? Because it says, Kevasim Livushecha Devarim Shehen Kivshono Shel Olam Yutacha Levushecha. He says things which are going to be right studyings, things which are hidden, right, should be hidden underneath that you shouldn't reveal it on the outside. Amrulay. So they went and they said Tanina Behu. Right, we already learned. Right? Until they said to me, Ben Adam, right? Stand up on your feet and then we're going to talk about it. So Amarlahu, he went and he said, right, if until you learned, right, you had to realize that it says Henen Maaseh Merkava, which these are the Pesukim, which the Chachamim were mailed, that they didn't want to teach it to anybody other than people that mamash they're bikiim, right, in Maaseh Merkava. So Meitve, so they come and ask a question, Adhecha Maaseh Merkava. Right? Until when is it permitted to come and to be doresh to a chacham, right? In order to yachid chacham, in order that he understands. Rabbi Omer says, ad va'ere kena chashmal batra, until the last va'ere kena chashmal, but the word va'ere itself, right? Until the end of the pasuk, you're not allowed to teach anymore. Rabbi Yitzchak says no until the word chashmal. Until the word chashmal. Ad va'ere megmarina. Until va'ere you could teach. From then onwards, it's a shebrakim. That means you could teach the Maaseh and Kavah until that pasuk. Once it gets to that word, then it's only Rashi Prakim. Ikadamni, other people say no. Ad va'ere you give Rashi Prakim. Mikam va'elach if he's a chacham, yes, and if not, then you don't teach it to him. So it says the Gemara, are you even allowed to even speak about the word chashmal? There was a child that he went and he was doresh in the chashmal, and it came out of fire, right? And mamash, and just like consumed them, right? It's just mamash. So answers the Gemara, no. Shani yenuka, it's different. Yenuka, because a yenuka, it's not his time. Yeah, it's not his time. He was too young, right? It's not proper to do so. So Amar of Yehuda says of Yehuda, Beram, however, those zachur oto aish letov, right? It's going to be remembered that person for good. Chananya ben Chizkiah shemo, and his name is Chananya ben Chizkiah. Yeah, if it wasn't that for the fact that Yechezkel was put in Gerizah, shayu dvarav kesutin divrei Torah, that the words are like sotrim and divrei Torah. Ma'asa, what did he do? He'elu 300 garbe shem v'yashav aliyah dorasho. He went, he brought in 300 barrels of oil, right? V'yashav aliyah, and he was sitting in the aliyah in the upper, right, in the upper room, right, in dorasho, and he was trying to be doresh zeh in order to answer up all the different stirot and to answer up all the different things that we were looking in and just, didn't make sense. So says the Gemara, there was a story with a child that he was reading Bet Rabo in Sefer Yechezkel. And he understood b'chashmal. And burnt him. So they went and they wanted to put Yechezkel in Genizah. It says Chananya ben Chizkiah, im zeh chacham, if the Tinok was a chacham, and he understood, is everybody chachamim? Meaning the fact that the child understood already, not every child understands. So where are you going to put Yechezkel and Genizah because you're going to understand the Masechet Chagigah? It's not one in not everyone knows. It's something, yeah? So my chashmal, what is chashmal? Amr of Yehuda says of Yehuda, you give them a 13b. Hayot esh memaleot. That's chashmal. It's an acronym. Hayot esh, chash, and then mal, memaleot, right? So is it which the speech comes out of the mouth like a fire. The Matnit Tana, we also learned the right itim hashot, itim memalelot. What does that mean that there's going to be itim chashot, itim memalelot? V'shah dibur yotzei mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu chashot. V'shah she'en dibur yotzei mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu memalelot. Which means like this: when the dibur comes out from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's chashot, which is like it's shotkot and keeps everyone quiet. But if it's not coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then they're speaking. Then it's like medabrim. Then they speak. V'achayot ratzot v'shov kimarei bazak. Then it says here the chayot are going to be ratzot v'shov, right? Kimarei bazak. So he says, "My ratzot v'shov." What does it mean ratzot v'shov? I'm going to view kiura yotzei mipi hakivshan. It's like ur, which is coming out from the kivshan. My kimarei bazak. What does it mean kimarei bazak? Amar Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef Chanina keura yotzei miben hacharasim. It's like ur, which is coming out between charasim. How do you translate here? Charasim. Cheres is earthenware. It's sorev zahav. Fiery. Okay. All of a sudden he looked and he sees a ruach sara, a strong wind coming from the north. It's a big cloud and a fire which is around it. So he says, Lecha Nazal, where did the ruach sara go? So Rav Yehuda Marav says of Yehuda Marav, it went to conquer the entire world underneath Nebuchadnezzar Rasha. Which means that he didn't want that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give his nation to such a low person. So he made sure that Nebuchadnezzar Rasha was going to become king over the entire world, in order that when he takes over Yerushalayim and everything, it was not just stam. Who caused me to become a shamash to these goyim? So he says, it was the sins of Israel. Meaning the sins of Israel caused me to become such a thing. Right? So he says, I looked at the chayot, and one of the ofanim are going to be in the land by the chayot. The Matnita Tana Matnita we learned, what does that mean? Sandalphon Shemo. His name is Sandalphon.
That's an angel.
Yes. Okay, so he says over here, phone. right? Yeah, is like the end of the names of the malachim, like something phone, this phone, right? So it says over here,
Sandal, but because he came.
So says the Gemara, okay, we're talking about now, so he says, where did it go? So he says that it went to conquer all of the world because of the sins of Bnei Israel. So there's one malach that it's in the land and it's going to be until the Chayot, and his name is Sindalfon, because he's going to be Gadol Mechavero Malach 500 Shana, right? 500 years. He's tying Ktarim, crowns for his creator. So says the Gemara, any is it so? It's written Baruch Kavod Hashem Mekomo. Mikad Mekomo Lekad Yadele, which means that we don't even know where his Makom is. Even the Malach. That means even a Malach does not know where the Makom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. So therefore, how could it be that Sandalfon is making the Ktarim for the head of HaKadosh Baruch Hu if we don't again, all these things we don't understand. Head of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So he says, no, the Amar Shem Ataga Ve'azil V'yativ. He says that that's the name of the Keter. And the Keter is going to go on the head of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but not that Be'emet he knows, right, where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amar Rava says, Kol Shara Yecheskel Ra Yeshaya. Anybody that saw Yecheskel saw Yeshaya. Lema Yecheskel Domeh. What is the Yecheskel Domeh? The Ben Kfar Shara Et HaMelech. He's like a Ben Kfar, a villager that saw the king. What is Yeshaya Domeh? To Ben Krach Shara Et HaMelech, to a person that lives in the city, right, that he saw the king. Okay, obviously, again, this is also very, very deep.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's obviously going to be like a different type of the way that they're looking at things. Okay, Amar Shakish says Shakish. Yeah, what does it mean in the pasuk? Shira la Hashem ki ga'oga, right? Shira lemi shemitgae al hagiyim. So he says, why is it going to be ga'oga? Why is it written twice ga'oga? Because it's a shira for that which is mitgae al hagiyim. Tamar more says Melech b'chayot. Who is the king of the wild animals of the chayot? So it says Ari, the lion. Who's the king of the animals? Melech b'meot, Shor, the ox. Melech b'ofot of the birds, Nesher, the eagle. Adam mitgay alem, but the human being, right? He's going to be mitgay on them. Kadosh Baruch Hu mitgay kulam, the entire world. Katuv echad omer. One of the pasukim say, "Udmut pneihem pnei Adam, ufnei Aryeh lemin u'meratam, ufnei Shimon mismom u'meratam." Uchtiv arba panim leechad, pnei echad, pnei keruv, pnei hasheni, pnei Adam, v'hashashi pnei Aryeh, v'revi pnei Nesher. Yilu shor lo kachashiv. He says, one second, we have a problem here. Why? Because it says here that it says udmut pneihem like pnei Adam. Now it says pnei Adam, Aryeh, shor, right? But it doesn't say. Right, and then it says the same thing. Pnei echad, pnei kruv, pnei hasheni, pnei Adam, shlishi Aryeh Nesher, but it doesn't have the shor, which was Melech Shebebehemot. So Shakish, this is talking about the different things of the chayot of different faces. So it says it doesn't speak about the shor. So Shakish says that Shakish, Yecheskel bikesh alev rachamim, v'apachol lekruv. Right, he went and he changed it to a kruv, right, which means. He says, Ribono Shalom category says senegor. Says what the category is going to become like a senegor. So what is the kruv exactly? Amar Rabbi Avu says Rabbi Avu, right? Kravia, kruv, the kruvim. Right? The kruvim is like a tinok. Kravia. Shekem beBavel korin linuka ravia. Right? That's a ravia. Ravia is a, right. That's why it says the kruv is like ravia. The kruv, the kruvim. What are the kruvim? The kruvim are like little children. Ravia is a child. So kruv is kiravia, like a ravia. Ravia is a child. Ravia is a child. Amar alei Rav Papa Abaye says Rav Papa to Abaye. He comes and he says, "Me'at ela me'at dichtiv pnei echad pnei kruv pnei sheni pnei Adam v'sheni pnei pnei Nesher haynu pnei kruv pnei Adam." 1 second. If you just told me now that the kruv is a human being, but it's like a child, so why does it say pnei Adam? You already told me pnei kruv. Kruv and Adam is oto tovar. It's the same thing. So answers the Gemara, no, for a child's face and an adult's face. It's two different things. One of them pnei Adam is a Dam Gadol. Another one is kruv is like a child. One of the psukim says that each one is like it's got 6 wings. One of them says and 4 faces to one, and 4 for one of them. It's not a question. Which means that all of a sudden they lost 2 out of the 6 wings. The chayot lost 2 out of the 6 wings. Okay, when the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. So it says, which 2 were lost? Says the one that they used to sing shira with them. It says 2 of them used to fly. That you're going to fly and it's not going to be there anymore. So therefore you see from here that they are going to lose 2 of them. Rabbanan Amr and Rabbanan say no. אותן שמכסו בין רגליהם. It wasn't the two that they were singing shira, it was the two that they were covering their feet. שנאמר בזזם פסוק ורגליהם רגל ישרה, והיא לאו דאימאית, and if it wasn't that they were mitmaet, how do you know that they only have one foot? Right? The only reason it's not that they put their foot in it is because kilu, since those two were taken away, now we know we saw the feet. So the feet is like 1 foot. So which ones were taken away? The two of the feet. So it says the Gemara, Dilma di Galia v'chazle. It says no, maybe it was revealed, and that's how he knew. So Dila otamechavas, if not, you're going to say Adam. They're also, how did you see the face? Means also that was revealed. So it says rather the Galia v'chazle, rather they saw it. So to the Galia v'chazle. Hachiyasha, can you compare both cases? Bishama pe. Right, it's good if it's going to be in front of him. Is it derech eretz to come and to reveal the face in front of the rabbi? Kareh, but the legs, it's not meaning the face. It's derech eretz, but it's not derech eretz to reveal the how do you call it the legs. So katuv echad omer, one of them says elef alfin yishmshuni v'ribor v'ben kadmen yikumu. Katuv echad omer yesh mispar legdudav. One of them says that there's elef alafim of mishartim, right? And then it says rivavot, which are tens of thousands. And another one is saying, is there even a mispar? Is there even a number to all the different things? So says the Gemara, Allah kashya, it's not a question. Right? What does that mean? Right? He says, what does that mean? It says like this. He says, one is the Bet of Midrash, one of them was the Zumeh of the Midrash. So to the heavenly entourage were also minimized. Tanya, we learned on the bright Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says, Mishum Abba Yosef and Nesta Elef Alpin Shemshunem Mispar Gedud Echad LeGedudav, and Mispar, the same thing. You're telling me that in every single Gedud you have Elef Alafim, thousands and thousands. And then you're telling me that there's no numbers. So again, this is for the avodat of the nahar of nehar dinur. Shneimar b'zez in a pasuk nehar dinur nagef and afek mikdumuy elef alfil shemshneim v'rigur v'yim kadumuy yukumun. Okay, this is basically to do with the nahar, which is coming and going. Okay, so he says elef alafim. Okay. Then the pasuk says mehecha nafik. So from where is it going out? Nahar dinur. Mizeatan shel chayot, from the ze'av the chayot. Ulechan shafich, and where is it going to be shofech? Where is it going out to the water? So it says that means the ze'av the chayot is making like a nahar. It's making a river. So he says, and where is it being poured into? It's being poured on the head of the Rishayim in Geinam. Shneimar, Hina zerat Hashem chema yatzea b'tzad mitcholel rosh Rishayim yachur. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Al asher kumetu, on 974 generations. Shneimar asher kumetu v'lo et nahar yutzak v'yesodam. So Tanya, we learned in a Braita.
What is this kumetu? That they
on the 974 generations where HaKadosh Baruch Hu which was before Matan Torah. Thank you. Right, which was before Matan Torah. Because it says in the pasuk, asher kumetu v'lo et nahar yutzak yesodam, which is basically going to be decreed upon right at the beginning. But at the end, it didn't actually come to them. Therefore, it says this nahar dinor was mutzak alehem, and therefore it comes completely threw them off on these generations. Remember, there was 974 generations where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was, how do you say, was mavi before Matan Torah, and he didn't actually create them. So that's why he says it was 26 generations. 974, right? 974 to 1,000 is 26. That was because it was 26 dorot until we got to Netinat Torah, correct? You had Asara dorot from Adam and Noach had Abraham, then Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, right? You have Levi, Kehat, Amram, right? It goes 26 generations until we got the Torah. And that's why there's 26. Halel Gadol is always 26 because it was chesed that the world was sustained for 26 generations without the Torah was given, until the Torah was given. So here we're talking about that the 974 generations were taken away. That means they weren't created. Okay, Tanya, we also learned in the Braita. Which one?
What?
Yes, the Tataka. This is the Tataka Doro. This is 976.
So there were supposed to be 1,000 generations until
yes, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu removed it because if not, they weren't able to survive.
In order to
so therefore, it was 26, and the 974 was these the Shekumetu. So Tanya, we learned in right. Amar Shuna Chasid al Elut Shamel v'Shivim Doro shekumtu lidbareot kodem shnivra olam velo nivreu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he was shatlam bechol dover dor v'nazeh panim shel door. Means every single time that you have azut panim in the door, it comes from those of the 974 generation.